Yeah, sorry. So the way we're trying to set it up is the pin down the side. All right. Now the interest in this question is 11%, and very early on, what 11% looked like was anytime there's a percent sign, it's 11 over that 100. All right, you remember that? Yep. So that's going to be 0.11. All right. And then your n is however many years it is, and wonderfully this says how many years, it says 2. So this sort of looks like P times I times n, but in maths, of course, we just get rid of the multiply signs, and that's why it looks like P. All right. So $3,000 times by 0.11 times by 2. And when you do that, it'll give you how much interest. All right. So with this one, where you are putting in $3,000, you're going to get $3,000 back, plus you're going to get some interest, whatever that works out to be. Okay. Does that make sense? Yep. That's all right. All right. You keep trying then. All right. So Ash, we'll now go on to question 4. That's the one that we're going to work through, isn't it? Okay, so question 4. Yeah, so the difficulty of this one is that it's broken up into many parts. All right. So initially, we're going to invest 7,500 initially. We are going to put it in on July 1st, which earns 11% simple interest. And we're going to do it for how long?
That's right, that's right.
How long are we going to do it for? When are we going to do something different? Okay, so when we go I equals pin, what's our P and what's our I? Let's start there. Good, 7,500. What would be our I? What could our I be? Yeah, which we just showed you was 0.11. All right. And what would our N be? Excellent. It would be from July 1st to September 19 over 365, because it needs to be a fraction of the year. All right. How many days in there? Well, July has 31 days. I like the way you say sure. 31 days in July. August? That is 31. And September has 19. So you total them up. 9, 10, 11, 3, 6, 7, 8. 81 days in total. All right. So then we go back to here. What we've got as our fraction of a year is 81 days out of 365. For 81 days, you with me? For 81 days out of a whole year, 7,500 is put into an account at 11%. For just 81 days out of that whole year. All right? That will give you an amount of interest. So at September 19, no longer will you have 7,500, you'll have 7,500 plus your interest. Yeah? At that point, you are then depositing another 400 as well, so that's got to be added in the account. He closed the account on December 20, so it was in there from September 19 to December 20. Get old mate calendar out again. What's the I for this second calculation? Read the question. What's the I for this second bit of the question? What's the I? It is still 11 because they don't tell us anything different. So it remains 11. So just 2 bits to the question, but remember to drag that down and do that process. All right? Have a crack at that, see how you go. You should have your DI in front of you there, please, and I'll just go through it. The first half of this directed investigation deals with percentages, okay? The second part of it deals with simple interest, and the last part of it deals with simple interest, maybe a little bit of compound interest, okay? So the first one is around shopping at radio rentals. Now, if you were to bring up the radio rentals catalogue, which I'll endeavour to do, you will find that there are an enormous amount of fine print available in their catalogues. Like any catalogue, we're just choosing to use them. So you bring that up. And the fine print is really important because what that does is it tells you, once you calculate it all, it tells you how much you need to pay once you do all your calculations. So I just put in Radio Rentals catalogue there. And we get to the latest catalogue. Slowly but surely, there's a lot of graphics, obviously. Now, it's generally in very fine print. So when you bring it up, you're going to have to maximise the print, all right? Because it'll talk about the fact that if you are going to pay on terms, if you're going to pay $1.10 a week or whatever an item is, there's certain issues that you need to abide by. I'll try and find them. There they are. And if I can zoom in that, which I will, just goes to there. You won't be able to see very well from where you are, but there's a whole deal of, they do it cleverly, don't they? There's a whole deal of expectations that you have to abide by when purchasing an item from them. So, for example, here we are, on-site assistance. My eyes are pretty average with this sort of stuff. There's only 12, 24 and 36 month payments, finance terms. And what they'll talk about is the fact that, and we'll go back to the question sheet, that if you purchase something, see how we've got $2.80 daily? Now, a lot of people will look at that and go, I can afford $2.80. That sounds all right. I could do that, okay? Instead of paying the $13.99. However, as you'll see in the example, when you go through the process, you'll actually find that something costing $4,447 ends up costing you $10,605. And it's because of this. The cash price for this Sharp TV was $4,447, right? There's a weekly rental fee of $62.15. There's a deposit that you have to pay, which is 15% of that. All rentals are for 3 years, so even if you could pay it off earlier, they won't let you. There's an application fee of $65, and every month of those 36 months, they'll charge you a fee of $4.95. Okay? That's all in the fine print. Very clever. So you've got to find 15% of that, which is you're going to pay $667 off in the first place. Okay? Your weekly rental comes out to $9,695, plus you add your 65, plus you add your $4.95 times 36, because they're doing that every month for 36 months. When you add those four things together, you get $10,605.65. For an item that's costing $4,447, you'll be charged $10,605. Now, it looks terrific when it's just saying so many dollars a day or so many dollars a month. but when you add it all together, it is quite tragic. So your job here will be to choose an item, find out what it costs you, and then from there do the calculations up on this page, all right, which hopefully you've got in front of you. Now, using simple interest, we're going to look at how Visa cards might operate, and this is a bit of a mock-up sort of process. So here you're using simple interest. That's why those people that aren't up to simple interest yet don't need to worry about listening. They can watch this later. The simple interest, 22%, okay? And so what we want to investigate is a loan, if you were to use a loan to calculate the simple interest, okay? Simple interest of 40% on your product. Remember you had your product before? All right, you're now going to calculate it using simple interest. All right? We'll work through that process. The next thing is about getting a job. Oops. So you've done all your radio rental stuff. Now what you're going to look at is finding a job, how many hours a week you have to work, what your wage will be, and what your weekly, fortnightly pay will be. Alright, then you need to work out how much tax you'll pay. So you might earn $35,000 a year, but you might pay $15,000 of that in tax, so you're only getting $20,000 in your head. Alright, calculate the tax you have to pay and find out your gross and net pay. Then you're going to research a car. Alright, I'm happy for you to find your own car if you want, but there's one there for you. You've got to pay a deposit. You've got to do all the calculations there. Just like we've been doing with simple interest, but you're actually doing it yourself on a vehicle for you. Finally, the rubric on how we are assessing this. Okay? So that's your directed investigation. It's about working with radio rental catalogues. It's also about using purchasing rates with the simple interest formulas to calculate how much you'd have to pay back. So it's all about interest and it's all about the original amount. Okay? That's your DI. At the moment, I'll say the due date will be on it. It will be Friday fortnight. Not just yet, but Friday fortnight. So what does that make it? Next Friday would be the 7th. The Friday after would be the 14th. So it's around the 13th or the 14th that it's due. You need a diary. Electric guitar is advertised $2,400. Ben can afford to pay a deposit of $600. So all up, he's paying how much to start with? No, sorry. How much is he borrowing to start with? Sorry, my mistake. Wrong question. He's doing that, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's borrowing that. Okay. He then has to borrow the remainder at 12%. What does 12% look like as a decimal?
0.1.
Good. And the N is 3 years. Okay. So over time, what we want is, we know that equal sign starts the calculations.
Yeah, we have.
And then we've got something like this starting. Alright, you've got to try and work out what that might be. Alright, that's question 8.